Hello everyone, welcome to Academic Coordinates. Today we're going to be solving an inequality, a quadratic inequality over here. So it's x squared plus 5x minus 6 is less than 0. So first and foremost, we are going to factorize here. So this is going to be x and x. We need the factors of 6 such that when we multiply them, we're going to get minus 6. And when we add them, we're going to get 5, right? So it's going to be 6 and 1, and then the positive is going to be here. So you can do it right there at home to convince yourself that if you multiply this thing out, you are going to get x squared plus 5x minus 6. Okay, so when you are solving quadratic inequalities, first of all, you should know what are your critical values. Critical values. And then from this step, the critical values will be x is equals to 1 and or x is equals to minus 6. So it's actually 1 and minus 6. So we're going to solve this thing in two ways, right? Or we're going to solve this quadratic inequality in two ways. First of all, using a quadratic graph or a parabola. And when you guys are solving inequalities, you should have an idea of how the graph looks like, So this is obviously a parabola with a positive a value, which is 1. So it is in this way. And then these points that you get here, or these x values, are going to be the x-intercepts. And my graph is not drawn to scale. So yeah, but you get what I mean. Okay, so now what this question is asking us, it is saying to us, we need to actually find, the values of x where this graph, you see, less than 0, where this graph is below the x-axis, right? And remember, the equation of the x-axis is y is equals to 0. So we need to find the values of x when this graph is below the x-axis. And that is the case here. Can you see that here our graph is below the x-axis? So we need to express that. So when we express that, it's going to be x is less than 1 but greater than minus 6. Then this will give you all your marks. Or you can use the interval notation. X is an element of -6 to 1, right? And take note that you're going to use round brackets here because it's strictly less than, right? So if it is strictly less than or strictly greater than, you're going to use round brackets. Then now if there is greater or equals to, then square brackets will be taken into account. Secondly, guys, I want to show you how you can solve this using the table method. So I've shown you the graphical method where after you have gotten to this step, you should have an idea of how your function looks like. So obviously this is a parabola or a quadratic in this fashion, and the parts that you are looking for is the shaded region below. So it's asking you, if it is less than, it's asking you where is this graph below the x-axis. If it is greater than, where is this graph above the x-axis? If it is greater or equals to, it's asking you where is this graph on and above, the x-axis. Okay, let's now look at the table method real quick. The table method, as others would call it. So the table method, it's more or less the same thing. In this case, on the table method, we do not need to necessarily know how the function is, So we've got x minus 1, and then we've got x plus 6. On the table method, guys, we do not necessarily need to know how the function looks, The only thing that we need to take note on the table method is that we are multiplying, two portions here. We are multiplying two portions, and this is the governing thing. This is the governing thing. A negative times a negative, we are going to get a positive. A negative times a positive, we are going to get a negative. A positive times a negative, we are going to get still a negative. And last but not least, a negative times, positive times a positive, we are going to get a positive. So as far as the table method is concerned, this is the only thing that we need to know, right? This is the governing principle of the table method. Okay, let me show you guys how it works. So we need to write the critical values here. The critical values is -6 and 1, right? And so now let us fill this thing up. Let's fill this thing up. So we need any values where x is actually less than -6. If we put any value of x that is less than -6 here, we are definitely going to get a negative value. Can you guys see that? You can put -7, you're going to get a negative value. Any values of x that is less than 1 or greater than -6, and we insert it here still, we are still going to get a negative value, right? Then lastly, guys, any value of x that is greater than 1 and we insert it here, what are we going to get? Let's say we've got 10, for example. It should be 10 minus 1, and then what are we going to get? 9. So we'll always get positive values in this case. And also at the critical value, we are going to get 0, right? So let's do the second one. X plus 6. Any value of x that is less than -6, let's say -7. So if you put -7 plus 6, we're going to get a negative value. You guys see that? And then at -6, which is the critical value, we are going to get a 0. Because if you say -6 plus 6, that is 0. Any value of x between 1 and -6, and we insert it here, we are going to get a positive value. So let's say we've got 0, for example, and then we insert it here, it's going to be a positive value. And any value of x that is above, 1, and insert it in this bracket, we're going to get a positive value. Okay, guys, so finally now, what do we have? So we're going to use what we have below here. So we're going to multiply these two portions. And take note, why are we multiplying those two? So we are multiplying this guy and this guy. We should get something that is less than 0 or something that is negative. So a negative times a negative is what? Is a positive. And then a negative times a positive is a negative. And then a positive times a positive is a positive. So looking at all of these portions here, the one that we're interested in is this one. Do you guys see that? And so what will then be our final answer right now? So it's going to be, we are going to capture what is in between these two. So it's x, which is an element of -6 to 1. So we have solved this quadratic inequality using the table method and the graphical method. Choose whichever one is going to assist you, or whichever one that you like. You are going to get the same answer. Do stay blessed and enjoy the rest of your day.